Hey guys, welcome back to this video series. So in this video, I'm going to create VPC and then subnet and make create public and private route table and make those make two private subnet and one public subnet. And this will be the main goal of this video project. So let's start with creating a VPC. Right now I have no VPC here. So first of all, you need to select the region. So I'm selecting Asia Pacific Southeast. So create VPC in that region. I'll give it my project name called my VPC. Okay, simple. And we need to provide the VPC CIDR, the size of the network, which essentially means the number of the IP addresses that it can provide for our resources to consume. So I'll give it a 10.0.0.0/16. So that gives me a lot of rooms for creating subnets and large amount of IPs. So I will go with the Tennessee default and create VPC. So VPC is created. So we can see the details, like we have VPC ID here, and right now the VPC state is available. If you look, this DNS host name is disabled, and I would like this to be turned on. So what I do is I will select action and edit VPC settings and enable DNS host names and save it. So our DNS host name is enabled. So this is actually very important if our instances EC2 instance needs DNS support. So it's a good practice to enable this, and everything looks good. So let's go ahead and create a subnet for this VPC. Right now, if I select here VPC, there are no subnets. We need subnets. So what is subnet? Subnet is simply a division of that large network. For example, you got a large pizza which is itself like a VPC, but when you divide it into a smaller slice of pizza, that slice of pizza is a subnet. So subnet essentially help us to segregate network from each other, which is good for security practices. Okay, so without any lecture, let's go ahead and create the subnet. And let's select our VPC. And so as I mentioned before, I will need 3 subnet. So I want to name them according to their purpose. So I will call this private subnet 1, and let me select availability zone 2A, and VPC area will be 10.0.1. I want to keep that as a network person of the IP address, .0 as a host person. So it will be a subnet with size CIDR size 24. Actually, I will copy that and create another subnet. I will call this private subnet 2, and I want to put that in a different availability zone, 2B, and subnet area this, but I can't overlap, so I need to make sure network is different. And last but not least, I need a public subnet. So I will call it public subnet 1, and I want to put that in a different availability zone. Oh no, not in a different availability zone, because as I mentioned before, the scope of this project, the business application, in this case Django app, and backend service MySQL DB needs to be locally available, which means I need to maintain the same availability zone. So public subnet will be Asia Pacific South 2A, and give it a subnet CID 10.0.3. That's the network portion of this subnet. .0, that's the host portion. That's where the devices will be getting IP address /24. And we can go with this. Alrighty, so we have now 3 subnets, and I have named like private and public. Just naming it doesn't make it private and public. It's just a naming for me to understand the purpose of this subnet. Okay, so just be aware of that. So let's do one thing. How do we make our public subnet actually public? When I say public, it is accessible from the internet. So we need to create a component called internet gateway and attach it to our VPC. It's just like you buy an internet. It's just like you buying a router and connecting that router so that you have access to internet service provider. It's a similar concept. So let's go ahead and create internet gateway. Just a few clicks and you have your internet gateway here. I'll call it my internet gateway and just click it, which is like you just bought a router for your home. Now you have router, but you need to connect to internet service provider, like then you can have access to internet. Similar thing here, you just attach it to VPC. So select the VPC and attach internet gateway. So we have now a router, and we bought a router, and that router is attached to internet service provider. So but we need to do some more configurations here. Okay, so what I want to do is go to the route table here. Right now there is one route table, and if you see this field main is, which means when we created a VPC, it was created along with VPC. So we can use this one as a public route table and create one more route table for routing traffic in private subnet. So I will create here private route table, and select the VPC and create route table. So when I create private route table, it already have these routes. So this is the our VPC, and target is local. That means all the devices inside within this VPC can talk to each other if there are no rules blocking them. Okay, so this is by now it is truly private route table, but I just need to attach. If you look at the subnet association, we see that we have no subnet associated with this private route table, so we can quickly associate. So now we can associate private subnet 1 and private subnet 2, so they are part of the private route table, so which we can see from here. But one thing to understand, because we are going to install, we need to install MySQL DB server, and that need access to the internet. So we need to have a way to pull things from internet. For that we need NAT gateway. NAT gateway is a feature that allow internet access, but it's only one way. Only you can access internet from inside, but you don't receive any traffic from outside. So let's go ahead and create NAT gateway. So let's create NAT gateway. Create NAT gateway. Let's give it a name, my NAT gateway. And this is very important here. When we create NAT gateway, though we are creating NAT gateway for our private subnet, for our EC2 instances in private subnet to access internet, but we need to place this NAT gateway, this component, in the public subnet. This is very important. So this is how it can create a gateway to the internet for EC2 instances in the private subnet. So I'm going to select here public subnet, and I also need to allocate elastic IP address. Since I don't have one, I'm going to create one here. So we just assigned allocated elastic IP address allocation number. We can create NAT gateway. Okay, now we have a NAT gateway in the place, but we need to update our route table. Which route table? Yes, private route table, because right now private route table looks like this. It can only route within VPC, but for our EC2 instance to have internet access, the traffic needs to go via this route table, this NAT gateway. Okay, so which is very easily done. Just edit route, add route. So we want to go to internet. That means anything but VPC CIDR. And from here, select NAT gateway and select the NAT gateway that we just created and save it. Now we are done with our setting up private subnet. But what about our public subnet? Let's go to route table again. We have a route table which was created by default. Let me name this public route table. Just by naming, it doesn't become public route table. We understand that, right? But let's check the routes. Right now, it only can route inside VPC. So it is not accessible from internet. To make this accessible from internet, we need to create internet gateway, which we created before. Okay, but we also have attached it to the VPC, which you can see from this state is attached, but still our route table does not know about that. So we need to update our route table. We need to tell our route table there is a internet gateway. Any traffic going to internet, not inside VPC, will go through this. So just go to route and update it. So we are adding a route, a pathway to the internet, which is this, via internet gateway. So we need to select this internet gateway and save change. So looks like we are done with setting up VPC and necessary networking. One last more visit. So go to VPC, and if I select my VPC, there is a resource map which we can see visually what's happening. So that's my VPC, and my VPC has right now 3 subnets. In Asia Pacific Southeast way, there are one public subnet and one private subnet, and in 2B there is one private subnet. Okay, so I also want to remind you why we have 2 private subnet, though we plan to make all our application and backend in the same availability zone. It's because we need minimum 2 availability zone for our network load balancer. So keeping that in mind, I created 2 subnets in 2 different availability zone. Okay, so look at the public subnet. It has attached a public route table, and that has internet gateway. Similarly, let's go for the private subnet. It's private routable, and both of them can access internet via NAT gateway. So this is beautiful. So we have finished the first phase of this project. Okay, see you in the next video. In the next video I will be creating security group